What up, naughty steppers? I am quite ill. But well enough to give you another review, and today I'm going to be talking about the fact that Rusko has made 5 more songs, put them into an EP, and released them on Circus Records. Rusko, real name Chris Mercer, regarded by many, if not all, as one of the pioneers of the dubstep genre and integral to its early development back in the late noughties. Hehe, noughties. Bringing a more mainstream flavour to the genre alongside fellow dubstepper Casper, displaying an evolution from the underground styles originated by the likes of Scream, Benga, Artwork and Hatcher. And I say mainstream with respect to what we hear of the genre today and how far it has come because of him and Casper. I was actually told the other day by Jarvis that the sample from his track Hyper Brostep, in which someone blames themselves for creating Brostep and says they subsequently hate it, is Rusko himself. Renowned for his acidic, groovy form of dubstep that very much represented the transition from those underground styles to the brostep that we hear more of across the board today. Producer of ultimate solo throwback tracks such as Woo Boost, Everyday and Jehovah, as well as his iconic tracks in co-production with Casper like Cockney Thug, Bread Get Bun and more recently Blouse and Skirt. Together, the two seen as responsible for breaking dubstep in America ever since their Fabric Live 37 mix back in 2007. But Mercer is back with his first solo multi-song release since September 2014, which I can't say I saw coming as soon as this. The 33-year-old having just recovered from a bout of cancer, with lymphoma in every organ of his body, keeping him out of production and festivals for the best part of a year. News which was greeted by everyone in the electronic music scene with a serious grief and sorrow at the mere thought of losing someone so dear and special to a genre that, in its evolution since his early days, has delighted people across the world. So the existence of this EP is something all the more special, highlighting not only his extended absence from the production limelight, but also his return to good health. And I think what is most noteworthy about these 5 more songs that he has to his name is the unerringly old school feel about them. As if nothing has happened since the development of artists like Skrillex and Zomboy, who blew dubstep up into something previously thought unimaginable for the genre in its inception. Mercer walks in here and stays completely true to his style, the freshness of which puts any notions of track likability to one side. There is next to no evidence of Rusko giving way to the trends that have catapulted dubstep to worldwide recognition over the last 7 or 8 years. There may be a bit of a rhythm influence to the first drop on the EP on the opening track Wallalang Leng. Great song title, by the way. But saying this would be to completely ignore the fact that rhythm borrows entirely from that original dubstep sound, especially in terms of structure. A sound that many are quick to ignore as an influencer of everything that genre has provided in the recent past. More of note are the things that make this track, as the opener to this comeback EP, pertain especially to that retro vibe. With a distinctly jungle and reggae feel, and a vocal taken straight out of the grime scene, not too dissimilar from the legendary track Skeng by The Bug. The effects throughout tapping naturally into that spacey and oozy atmosphere that made this music so revolutionary and captivating in the first place. And a drop that is enhanced well as it progresses, from being a bit too static at the start, most notably with the squelchier noises on show. Rusko also harks back to that old school dubstep approach on tracks 3 and 4 of this EP. The first of which, entitled Hot, gets straight to the drop following a tribal introduction of shouts and earthy percussion. A minimalistic drop comprised of weighty wubs that are few and far between, speeding up at the exact right moments and becoming increasingly fervent over time. Also of note are those brilliant winding zaps at the end of each drop sequence that give the simplicity of these drops that manic and bewildering feel, taking the song in those unexpected directions. The other clear throwback to past dubstep times comes with Mind the Gap, beginning with the soft reggae-inspired opening before introducing another plodding, sloth-like drop full of swampy wubs. And in talking of its slowness, I am remarking on its endurance and inviting bounce, and not any sort of boring aspect to do with the song, of which there isn't one. I also really enjoyed the trumpet notes inserted into the midway points of these drops in this track, very much adding to the reggae essence of it. Not to mention those breaks of silence before the drops come in, something which only lasts about 4 seconds but which seems to go on forever. A great touch that lends an emphasis to the wub sounds that come in, and something that actually has a say in other tracks on this EP. Like in the opener with those periods of nothingness between sequences, moments of reflection that make the surrounding sounds seem even more impactful. But this also takes shape in the drops themselves, which, as I mentioned, for the most part, are quite minimalistic. Small pockets of space in between each sound so that they have their own presence within their respective songs, giving them a staccato feel overall. But notice how this is only the case with tracks 1, 3 and 4, the dubstep orientated tunes of the EP. Because it is in this way also that Rusko is returning to more original dubstep formats, those breaks of silence being a staple part of the genre in its infancy. And so you may be left wondering as to what tracks 2 and 5 bring to this latest project from the Englishman. The answer being a whole lot of two-step and breakbeat inspired dreaminess, taking the EP down more soothing routes, another insight into where electronic music has come from over the years. With the track High, Mercer pairs a stunningly innocent and frank vocal with an industrial and purposeful drop. At first catering to the calming effect provided by the vocal, with those charming underlying bass notes following the uplifting and more higher pitched ones layered over the top, but in its later versions becoming a bit darker and more menacing, bereft of as much musicality, yet still adhering to that guttural rhythm. Then on the closing track, Emotional, Rusko comes through with a cheeky halftime number that is both upbeat and reflective in equal measure, succeeding a soothing piano intro with a giddy beat that brings together both the happy and the sad through its note selection with aplomb. I wouldn't say the vocal from And Julie is as emotional as the title suggests, but its delicate delivery definitely aligns with the very laid-back nature of this song overall. And so viewing these two calmer takes on Rusko's style in amidst the dubstep tracks, one can't really say there's a consistency to this EP's sound. However, it is the repetition within these songs individually that stands as its selling point. In dubstep's evolution, we have become increasingly preoccupied with the need to change things up from drop to drop, or have an inventive mid-section just to spice things up a bit. But this is something that works with the genre as wild and wacky as brostep is, and not as much with the simplicity provided by Rusko here. Power can lie in creating something very statement-making and repeating it, as Rusko does multiple times in this EP. With each track having its significant moments, accessing those over and over to give them more longevity within the context of a song. And also, as if to say, look, I've made something juicy, why not have another dose of it whilst you're at it? It speaks of someone truly confident in their own style as something providing exactly what's needed. For many, this being the answer to the problems posed by dubstep's evolution over the years. He's coming straight back in and saying this approach still has a massive say in this genre, if not the biggest say. Because ultimately, where would brostep and riddim and vomitstep and metalstep and all of those be without people like Rusko in the first place? Through these instances of repetition, Rusko is letting his music do the talking to make that statement. Beyond the fact that this EP represents that massive comeback that it is for him on so many levels. By adopting this rudimentary technique, a foundation upon which dubstep was built originally, he is showing us that simplicity can be the way forward once again with heavy music. That not all producers must pander to the short attention spans of those who can't listen to tracks without huge direction changes, which brostep has become. A consistency and assuredness that has been taken on by the riddim genre somewhat, but when you have 5 minutes of pretty much the same 8 bars, then I think that's taking it a little bit too far. Rusko's 5 latest songs don't throw too much at you, and as a result, seem very refreshing. When we get to the final track, we look back on how what has preceded it is not too drastically different. The dubstep is calm and collected, neat and contained, nothing too showy or over-elaborate about it, the lightest form of heavy. Meaning that, in the process, the mellower cuts, high and emotional, fit in alongside the dubstep just perfectly. And you may have noticed that in the course of this review, I've had barely anything bad to say about it. But I feel like with this EP it's very much all or nothing in that respect, because on my first listen through of this, I hardly liked it at all. What I realised, however, was that I've just become so used to huge drops with every single bit of space being filled in, bigger energy and sounds and just so much more going on, that sitting down and listening to this more toned down stuff was going to be a fair bit for my brain to get used to, just because I was so wired to consuming one type of dubstep music. But once I saw that that was going on, I could really appreciate it for what it is and continue to do so more and more with each listen. Its stripped back, down-to-earth approach is compelling in its simplicity and certainty with what it wants to provide. I can't deny it really takes something for lovers of the brostep genre to cross that line and really get into this less in-your-face approach. And in relation to what I said earlier about Rusko kicking himself in the teeth for his part in the creation of brostep, this is exactly what it's about. But once you get there, it's really worth those several listens just to get into that place of admiration for what this is as a piece of work, and a lovable one at that. With other fantastic moments in the EP, including those sumptuous steel drum notes in the track High, the interaction between the quicker up-down notes of the drop in Hot, or the faint wub sounds nestling in the background in the lead up to the drop of Mind the Gap, taking the back seat for a change. And beyond this detailed analysis and into something a little more conceptual, maybe, just maybe, Rusko's full return into the dubstep limelight with this EP represents the genre coming full circle. Dubstep to brostep to riddim and all the other subgenres within those transitions, and now back to that original dubstep sound? We even have producers such as Dirt Monkey, Ganja White Knight, Jansen, and most recently Chime coming through with very Rusko-inspired tunage. With Mercer acting as the main reminder to the hordes of people still obsessed with that original dubstep style that this movement is still about. The answer to what they have seen as a true lacking in the dubstep scene over the last few years. And for me, there is a real significance in having Rusko produce for a label owned by Flux Pavilion and Dr. P. It's as if all of the producers who were responsible for bringing dubstep out of the underground and making it more accessible are joining forces once again to create something special. But aside from this, I think we're all just happy that he's back in full force and making music. A cheers not only to the return of his style, but more importantly, to his health. Long live King Rusko. Now, in terms of my favourite from Has Made 5 More Songs, I think I'll have to go with Hot. I love how this track gets straight to the point, the epitome of Rusko's minimalistic approach on this EP, acting as the biggest tribute to that old school style. Also, have I mentioned how he says cold instead of hot before the second drop? Yeah, that's funny. And in terms of a recommendation if you enjoyed these tracks, well, I don't have one. Let's just appreciate this thing for what it is, a comeback from one of dubstep's OG producers, which deserves respect in and of itself. And so, Nawtysteppers, that's that for another review on the Nawtystep channel, this time of Rusko's new EP released on Circus Records, Has Made 5 More Songs. Thank you very much, and as always, for tuning in. Be sure to leave a comment with your thoughts on this EP. Did you enjoy it? Did you not? Let me know in the comments down below. Like this video, share it about, and subscribe to the channel, hitting the notification bell along the way if you're enjoying the content. Next to my head, there should be some other dubstep reviews from the channel if you enjoyed this one. And don't forget to like and follow Nawtystep across all social media if you haven't already. With everything linked, including those artists working with that Rusko sound at the moment, in the description box down below. And lastly, if it's naughty, then you know guys, so be sure as always to keep it naughty and stay safe. Or I'm going to kick your poncy soul all the way down a tunnel till you choke on your own fucked up ribs. That's a Casper and Rusko reference for anyone that was offended by that material. And I shall see you all in the next one. Peace out.